Fear is like a great magician that casts the illusion that I have something that the world can take away from me. It makes me believe that love can be taken away, that peace can be taken away, that even my life can be taken away. To dispel this illusion, I have to be willing to go on an inward journey away from the physical world and into the ocean of my spiritual being. I take some time now to rest my mind in stillness, and I begin to sense that peace as it unfolds like a warm light into every cell of this body. I take some time to remember that I am spirit, and that before I entered this world, I was complete with peace, with love, with joy. These qualities exist within me forever. And the only reason I lose touch with them is I forget who I am. So I take some time now to remember that I am light. I am eternal. Even death cannot finish this light. I am love. And no matter what happens in the outside world, that love will always be within me. When I think on these qualities, when I emerge love in my heart, when I emerge peace in my mind, when I take time to sense my eternity and to remember that I am distinct from this physical world, then I begin to realize that just like the ocean is a world unto itself, my inner world is a world unto itself. My inner world is full of qualities. And just like the physical world offers water, flowers, fruits, and resources, my inner world can offer me so much love, so much peace, so much comfort that no external situation can shake me. The more I practice this awareness that I am light, and that the experience of these qualities continues eternally, independent of anything that can happen in the outside world, the more I realize that I am incorporeal, pure and light, the easier it will be to dispel the illusion of fear. And I will realize I have nothing the world can take away from me. Because regardless of anything that happens, I am always light. I am always peace. I am always a child of the Supreme Being.
Good day, everyone. Good evening, and a warm welcome to all of you who have joined us today. Welcome back for those of you who joined part 1. And so today we have part 2 with Maureen again on the topic of soul consciousness versus role consciousness. I will be your host today. And of course, this is the second part of a 3-part series on the ancient wisdom for modern times. And before I get into introducing Maureen, just a few housekeeping things, that there is Mandarin translation available today. And for most part of the program, Maureen will be presenting, but you can put your questions into the chat box at any time. We will keep that in check for the Q&A at the end. But also at the end, if you would like to, you could also raise your hand with the reactions button at the bottom. And yeah, we can unmute you if you have a question for Maureen. So I might just have Maureen up with me now on the video. So yes, so just a bit about Maureen. I'll try and summarize because she's got such a long bio. Well, since 1981, Maureen has actually lived in Asia for 32 years. She was there and she helped to establish Raja Yoga meditation centers throughout Asia. She's very active and also very engaged with the community, and hence during her time there, she was the chairperson of Unity for Peace and took up roles like the secretary of the Asian Business Leadership Exchange. She helped establish the Food Link, a charity linking hotels and restaurants with social welfare organizations. And she also was instrumental in setting up living values education programs and also the Khmer Independent Life Team, a social enterprise for victims of landmines. She was also playing a major part in organizing 50 dialogues throughout India for the Future of Power project, which brought leaders together to explore the use of soft power. From 2014 to 2018, she was back in Australia and she was the coordinator of the National Office of the Brahma Kumaris in Australia. At the moment, she is the coordinator of a retreat center called the Yarra Valley Living Center near Melbourne, Australia. Apart from that, Maureen has facilitated nonviolent communication workshops in prisons, companies, schools, and organizations all over the world, and is also the author of the book, Mystic at the Edge, a Western Woman Colored by Asia. So welcome back, Moni.
Yeah, lovely to be back with you.
Yeah, I look forward to exploring the topic we have today. Over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. So hello, everyone. And yeah, hopefully at the end I'll get to see some of you. I'm sure you enjoyed that meditation that we started with. And it really described what we would say is the experience of soul consciousness. So the topic today is role consciousness versus soul consciousness. And I think just immediately you can think of the difference of when you are in the consciousness of being this being of light and in the consciousness of your role. So just to explore a little bit, what is soul consciousness? So even the word soul is not very clear for a lot of people. We could use the word spirit, consciousness, being, and as in the commentary, the light. But what is that actually? You know, even if we say soul, many people are not clear what that is, but it was described during that meditation commentary, an eternal being, a being of peace, love, happiness. And I think the most important thing we need to realize, so that we have that determination, I guess, and that drive to move towards soul consciousness, is that in soul consciousness, we will realize that everything we need is within the self. The being of peace, love, happiness, as we heard in that commentary, that is who I am. In actual fact, we may not experience that on a day-to-day basis, but what we need to realize, and what the practice of soul consciousness does, is helps us to remember who we really are. And so this is what we'll be exploring today, as opposed to role consciousness. And what happens when we forget that we're a soul and we get caught up in our role? We experience quite the opposite of what was described in the guided meditation. And yet, the aim that we have in playing a role is usually to achieve those things, for happiness, for peace, for security. But when we get attached to the role, we actually lose all of those things, because everything to do with the role that we play cannot be permanent. And yet the soul is eternal, it's permanent. But the role, it depends on our age, our gender, our abilities. It depends on the opportunities available. And so we are generally constantly in a state of insecurity, fear, and worry about being able to maintain that role, but also competition and jealousy and all of these things that come in, because when we are role conscious, what comes with that is comparison. We see who's higher than me, who's getting more pay, who's more popular, who's doing a better job. But it's natural that in this world, we all can't be the same. That's a fact of life. So there will be always someone that is achieving perhaps the highest that can be achieved in a certain career. And number-wise, after that, 1, 2, 3, 4, just as in any kind of sport, we will have one winner. There'll be a winner. And even if the person coming behind is just a half a second behind, so actually just as great, but still second, not getting the same kind of attention and fame and all of those things. So what are we basing our security on? What are we basing our experience of life on if we are role conscious? So perhaps just to start with a little bit of a reflection on whether we think we have a healthy relationship with the role that we're playing. So just spend a few moments in silence, just thinking about the roles that you play. And it's not just the roles that you have at work, it's also within the family, within relationships, within organizations. So perhaps just bring one to mind that you're feeling a little bit challenged with. Maybe there's some feeling of competition, jealousy, expectations not being met. So we can see the impact of role consciousness on our state of mind. And generally, it's not positive. I think for the times that we're at the top, and that will be at some time in our life, possibly, we might be at the top. But then we have that fear and insecurity that someone might overtake me, or we see people coming up and we block them, we're jealous. So we can see how it impacts on our behavior. And often we're not very proud of that. And even in family dynamics, the roles that we play, it's all very complicated and confusing. Whereas going back to that idea that within soul consciousness, everything I need is within myself. We realize that I am a being of peace. So when we see ourselves getting disturbed in our state of mind, distressed, go back within and remind the self that I am a being of peace. I don't need to go anywhere. I don't need a holiday. I don't need a cave or a mountain or a stream or a river. I don't need anything. Everything I need is within myself. And one of the hardest things to realize in that arena is that I am a being of love. And in actual fact, I don't actually need anyone's love because I am a being of love. But even while I'm saying that, I know that I can't always achieve that awareness on a constant basis. Sometimes we feel left out, we feel, why wasn't I included? Something like that. But when I realize myself to be love, I don't need anyone else's approval. There's such a deep security. So we can say that soul consciousness is totally natural, just like a flower. It doesn't think who it's going to give its fragrance to. It's just fragrant. And whoever experiences it will experience it. So we don't have to try to do anything. We just need to be. That's all we need, just to be. So all that doing that we get so busy with, and especially in all our roles, we can step back from that. So let's also now step back and see ourselves playing our role as if this is a stage. As Shakespeare says, the world is a stage and we are the actors. So just see yourself on the stage of life. Look back over today. How was your day? Were there any ways that you behaved that, probably you wouldn't have behaved like that if you were on a stage and everyone was watching? Or perhaps you did very well. Perhaps you think you've played a good part today. But being able to step back, observe, detach, and witness is one of the biggest steps we can take in being able to move from role consciousness to soul consciousness. So for those who have practiced meditation for some time, you may observe that it has become natural for you to be a little bit detached and to be quite aware and conscious throughout the day, hopefully. because this really helps us not to get lost in the experience, not to get so absorbed that we react and we forget that we are this being that's complete, that's got everything within itself that it needs. So when we see ourselves on that world drama stage, we see ourselves as an actor. So I'm an actor playing a part. The part is not me. I'll take off the costume, and go home. If I forget that I'm just playing a part and get caught up in that role, then I'll feel sorrow, anger, sadness, confusion. But when I'm playing the part, I know I'm just acting. I'm detached from it. I'm just going through the part that I have to play. And when we see others playing their parts, maybe they're being angry or fearsome. Maybe they're being sad and there's a lot of sorrow happening in their life. But what we need to do is step back, as well as being compassionate and having good wishes and pure feelings. We need to believe in ourselves and believe in others, but not worry, because it's a drama. And in a drama, there will always be different scenes. We don't see any drama where it's always beautiful, happy, wonderful. Even cartoons, whatever, can you think of any movie, any drama that you've seen where there's not some challenges? And that's when the heroes are really seen. They're really making their mark when they play a hero part of being able to face whatever it is that's going on in their life. So when I'm aware of myself as an actor, this is what I'm looking for, how I'm dealing with situations. And if I'm not dealing very well, I can take inspiration. I can study. I can talk to people that I consider to be wise or people that have been through a similar situation and take their cooperation, not necessarily their help, but their cooperation in being able to navigate the situations that we find ourselves in. So if we are able to then take a further step back and think of ourselves as an instrument, that I'm just an instrument. Whatever I'm doing, I'm just like a flute, but there's a player who's playing this flute. So I don't take credit for the wonderful music. I feel myself to be the instrument. This instrument consciousness is also so helpful in our life, because otherwise, if I feel I am doing, there'll be expectation of some reward, of recognition, reward in any kind of way. But when we have the consciousness of being an instrument, we don't look for that. And another thing is that when we're the instrument, we don't get tired because we don't feel that I am doing it. I'm just an instrument being used. You could say by God, you could say by the higher force, whatever you want to name that energy. But, the word creator was only ever used for God before the Enlightenment, because it was considered that that's the energy that flows through. And if you speak to anyone who's achieved anything great, in my experience, it's always that they feel something's worked through them, that it wasn't them. I've talked to artists and actors and writers. And even when I was writing the book, I hesitated for so many years because I wanted it to come through me and not from me. I think to a certain extent, I got it started, and I hoped that things would come through me, and maybe 50-50. I don't think I achieved completely just this thing of it all coming through me, because I really enjoyed studying and researching to put together some of the ideas. And it's also stories of, what I've encountered. So there's me in it to some extent, of course, but what I was trying to achieve all the time, that it would come through me, because they're the books I like to read. They're the books I feel that have the greatest authenticity. So when I'm playing my part, not to have that over-consciousness in any way, whether as an actor or, in whatever I'm doing, just to feel that I'm the instrument. I'm just playing a part, as it's a drama. And so there's so many ways we can step back from that consciousness of I. Because one time, I've been meditating for many years. And one time I sat to meditate. It was at our headquarters in Mount Abu. I was sitting on a mountaintop on this rock. And I was just asking myself, what comes in the way of my meditation? Why can't I go beyond? What's stopping that experience, that wonderful experience of being beyond? And I realized very clearly, it's all the thoughts of I in my head. I wasn't consulted. I wasn't informed. I think, I feel. It was all this I have to do. And I realized this I is what's coming in the way of my meditation. And I is quite a heavy word. It's a very small word, but even when I say it now, the power behind it, it's got a real force to it. And so we change that also. I, the soul, the being of light. So we soften that whole feeling of I when we bring it to the being within, and not the role that we're playing, what we're projecting through this body, thinking of myself as this personality, this nationality, and all the things that I identify with as my body. But when I go into I, the soul, I soften all of that and make it meaningful. Another thing that we need to look at is, because we're talking about this drama, this world drama, this, as we say, I'm not a human being with a soul. I am a soul having a human experience. And this is the challenge, just as a soul. If I was just a soul and didn't have a body, it would all be easy. But I'm on this world drama stage. I'm having an experience. I have a role to play, and I actually can't escape it. Even if you try to avoid and not communicate, it's still creating lots of problems around you. So we can't escape our part on this world drama stage. And I don't know about you, but I believe in reincarnation. So even the idea of taking my life won't help. I'll just come back again. So I may as well have the courage to face whatever hand is being dealt. But let's just look at some of the universal laws. And this was another thing that I contemplated for some time. What are the universal laws. And for me, I've only come across 4, and I'll put it out there to you. You might find some others, but I would say there's just 4. The first one, as we've mentioned already, I am eternal. You know, it's often said that God is eternal, or even if they say we came from a mass of gases, you know, whatever anyone says, there has to be something that's eternal. There has to be. If I've come from God, well, God's eternal. If I've come from that mass of gases, then are they eternal? So this concept of eternity. So I would say if God can be eternal, if those gases or whatever you believe, wherever you believe you've come from, can be eternal, why can't everything be eternal? And I do believe that everything is eternal, that all atoms are just changing. They're going from being an ocean to a tree to the rain in the sky. You know, it all just moves around. And there was a group in Hong Kong when I was living there called Friends of the Earth, an environmental group. And the saying that they used, which I thought was brilliant, was there's no such place as away. Can you throw anything away? Where's away? And this is why we have so much pollution, because we forgot or we chose to ignore the fact that there is no places away. Even if we try to push people away, there is no away. Even if we lock people up in prisons, there is no away. Things just don't go away. We can't just get rid of problems. There is no such place as away. So I am eternal. You are eternal. Everything is eternal. Atoms are eternal. And this is a play between this drama, these material things that we see around us, I, the being, and the being beyond. This is an eternal drama. And I need to understand, you know, if I'm saying God, you can use whatever idea you have of God. I'm just using that because, you know, we can use supreme, the absolute, whatever you like. It's for each one to explore that. Eternal. When I first heard this word, I had an experience, and I'd been studying Buddhism, and in Zen is the practice of a koan. A koan is a puzzle that has no answer. So the experience is that the mind expands when we stop trying to think. When I heard the word eternity, my mind went into some kind of space because I can't reason with that. Like, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Has anyone been able to solve that? The chicken or the egg? So again, the mind just goes, It expands because there's no answer. So we can't explain, I don't think, eternity, but we can accept it as a truth, as one of the universal laws. And if you can't accept it, you can ask some questions, you can challenge here, or you can go away and think about it. And Aristotle spoke a lot about eternity. You can look into that. It's so fascinating. And he even talks about eternal recurrence, that everything happens exactly as it happened before. Nietzsche talks about the same thing. And so many others. So you can explore this further. The second universal law is entropy, that everything goes from order to chaos, that we actually have this state where we are young, we become old. Everything is new and becomes old. We can't stop this process of entropy. And entropy means that energy, in a way, is lost. For example, if you dropped a pack of cards, and you spent time picking them all up, there's no return for that energy. It's kind of lost. So entropy is another fascinating idea that you can think about, but it helps us. Understanding this universal law helps us to accept, because we can't hold on to anything as it was before. And this brings us to the third universal law of change. Nothing stays the same. Nothing. Nothing at all. Nothing in this world, absolutely nothing, is unchanging. And why I enjoy connecting with the Supreme is because that being is not in this world and subject to all these laws. So that being never changes. So my mind can rest in someone, it's not a something, but someone that is unchanging. Whereas our finances, our relationships, our state of health, everything is constantly changing. And that's pretty tiring. It's not easy on the mind because we have to keep up with all these changes, and we get very tired of that. And nowadays it seems to be speeding up. Maybe it's to do with that entropy. So if we have somewhere, and that somewhere is beyond this world, a region of silence, light. And there was a person who is in Australia. He's a very well-known and a very good Qigong master. He had an accident when he was 19 years old, and he crashed into a truck, and was all smashed up. But for 10 days, he was conscious. He wasn't on painkillers. He was able to speak, but he didn't feel his body. And he was wondering, when he came back to his body, so much pain, so much concern about his state. But he was left with the question, where was I? Where was I when I wasn't here? Where was I when I didn't feel the pain of this body, when I didn't have the worries and the concerns that I now have? And that got him searching for, where is that place? So that, maybe it's not a place, it's a space, it's a something, somewhere, but we can go there in meditation. And it's beyond time, beyond space, beyond things. A place to rest. And a relationship with someone, that being beyond, that doesn't change. So that's two great things we can access. And the third is the law of karma. And the law of karma, as you know, to every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. as it says in the Bible, as you sow, so you will reap. So these 4 laws, and I'll go a bit more into karma soon, but I think before that, what makes it a universal law is that you can't break it. You can't escape the law of eternity, entropy, change, or karma. However, what you have to note and what you have to be aware of and cautious of, you will break yourself when you try to go against these laws. If you try to stop getting old, you'll become neurotic. If you try to, go against any of these laws, if you try to stop that entropy, if you try and stop change, you'll find that you disturb yourself, you break yourself, but you'll never break the law. And that's why I want to now come to this aspect of karma. Because people often have the question, how do I know what is right and what is wrong? So when we're saying that the law of karma, to every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. So how do we know what is right action? And especially nowadays where people are saying, oh, everything's wrong, nothing is bad, everything is right, nothing is wrong. It can be confusing. It can be a kind of philosophy that doesn't really help. Of course, according to drama, nothing is wrong because it was meant to be. If I make a mistake, that was in the drama. So I can use it for the past. But when I'm needing to make a decision and I know that whatever I decide, I will experience the consequences of that, I need to be pretty careful before doing an action to see whether this is an action that will bring good return. And sometimes I like the translations that are used in some of the Buddhist books I've read. It's called skillful and unskillful action, rather than right and wrong, because right and wrong have a lot of judgment in them, whereas skillful and unskillful, it kind of denotes that, you're still in training. And in fact, the word sin comes from the word that's used. It's actually the word that's used when we miss the bullseye. It's a term from archery. When you miss the bullseye, you sin. Now, if you've ever tried to, I'm sure many of you have played darts or, you've done some kind of archery or something. It's so hard to get the bullseye. It is so difficult. So if we sin, it's, all part of the practice. It's all part of our training so that we can get things right. So we don't feel bad about errors and mistakes, but we keep trying to do the right thing. But, that can be like walking a tightrope. It really needs a lot of balance. So when we are asking this question, how do I know what is a right action? We talk about 5, and again, another interesting word, 5 vices. And a vice is a term that's used in carpentry and metalwork. A vice is something that grips, that holds on so that you can do your work. So this is what a vice is. It's something that gets hold of us. We don't want anger. We don't want ego or attachment, but it grips us and causes so much pain when we're in its grasp. So, we talk about 5 of these vices: anger, greed, lust, attachment, and ego. And people will ask, well, and again, you need to think deeply and observe and witness and try to understand what these are, because a lot of people don't know the difference between anger and assertiveness. So what we say is you have to be angry to the right amount with the right person at the right time for the right thing. So anger itself is not wrong. It's an energy that is informing me that something has to be addressed. So when we do it in that way, it becomes assertive. We will assert ourselves to put a boundary, to stop a particular behavior, so it changes then when it's skillfully done. It changes from anger to assertiveness. But we know when we're angry because we'll feel a little fire inside. Maybe you'll feel it somewhere in your body, but I feel it like a fire in the stomach. If I'm angry, I can feel this heat. And if it's all cool, I know that there's no anger there and I'm just stating what needs to be said. Often because we're afraid of anger, we don't say what we need to say because we can't trust that we can say it without exploding. And we're afraid of the other person's anger. So we need to be able to speak when there's some injustice, when my boundaries are being transgressed. So anger, greed. So it's said that there's enough in this world for everyone's needs, but not for everyone's greed. We need actually so little. And in fact, I was just listening yesterday while I was driving, I was listening to the index in Australia. It's ridiculous. Really, the rich, they're 260 times more wealthy than the top 20, than the bottom 20. And Australia's always prided itself on being quite an egalitarian, fair country. But, it's really not if you've got this kind of situation. So, okay, let me ask you, what do we need? So for this particular moment, I need walls around me so that I can have privacy and concentration and quiet so that I can think and you can listen. So a walls and a roof because it's raining. It's helpful to have a chair. I don't know if I have to have it, but it's certainly very helpful. A light because it's nighttime. So we need certain things, but I don't need much else that's here. If I look around me, I've got a plant, I've got a lamp, I've got, some nice things around me, but, most things I don't need. So why do I have them? Am I greedy? Am I greedy to have these things? Actually, it's interesting that it's also part of our nature to have a sense of aesthetics, of beauty. So there's nothing wrong with beauty. It's so much a part of our drama. And some people have things that are beautiful that are worth a lot of money. And they're supporting the arts that are so necessary in our world. What would our world be without artists? So it's not to judge ourselves or anyone else. However, I would say if I have more than I need, let me be really grateful for anything extra I have in my life, which probably if I counted them would be at least 1,000 things, possibly, maybe, I don't know, I'd have to count, but you look at your world, probably 1,000 things that are making your life comfortable, enjoyable, pleasant. So it's not that we have to live with nothing and, in a very, impoverished state, but be conscious, be aware, try to share if you have anything extra or anything you're not using, be conscious of those who don't have. So that's something we need to do so that we're not greedy and we live according to needs. Lust, now that's another interesting one. So lust is when we have a strong desire. It's often used for sexual desire. And I'm sure you're very aware that in the world today, it's rampant. I mean, people aren't safe. The violence because of lust has gone to the extreme. In fact, they did a big commission, a royal commission into institutions and violence and orphanages, charities, religions. It was like, wow, it was so rampant. It was so pervasive. It was seen everywhere, this lust. So we need to have love, appreciation, but not to lust, because that's where it gets out of control. I don't know if you've ever ridden a horse. I was on a horse when a mare was in heat, means at that breeding time. Oh gosh, the horse that I was on nearly killed me trying to get through a fence. So I know what it's like. And that's the kind of force behind lust that is so detrimental. A lot of people don't want to have this lust. Even people who are behaving badly, then they don't like it. They don't want it. It's a control that takes over. It's a vice. It's a grip. So we've said anger, greed, lust, attachment. Yeah, so attachment, it said that detachment is allowing. Attachment is controlling. If you love a bird, you set it free. If it loves you, it will come back. And so attachment is that thing that grips, that holds on, that actually destroys another person or an animal. It can be so detrimental. Some people are so attached to their animals that they want to feed them chocolate. I knew someone who fed his dog chocolate and cheese. I mean, really, they're not good for animals. But that was the attachment. They wanted the animal to have what they loved. But it's not helpful. It's not good for the animal. So there's so many ways in which our attachment hurts others, but definitely it's such a big pain when we are in the grip of attachment of someone that we can't let go of, whether it's because they've moved away from us or they've moved away from this world. But this thing of attachment, it's controlling and it's obsessive. Attachment's a very obsessive behavior. And then ego, of course, probably, I don't know, at least for me, I think it's the biggest one. Ego is so invasive. There's so many ways that we can have ego. And what we call that in regard to today's topic is body consciousness. This is what we call ego. Because when we're in the identity of the body, our identity is false, external. So it's not truth. So when we have that ego, then we suffer a lot because we try to get attention, recognition, we never feel good enough. All of there's comparisons, again, back to those, but all the things we were saying that are the opposite to soul consciousness is in that body consciousness. And it comes even in a spiritual world, on a spiritual path. It can come into it. I mean, even if you sit in meditation, you might think, you know, oh, do I look right? And am I sitting, you know, oh, I must look really peaceful. I don't know, whatever way it comes. Or within organizations, there can be certain things that are bestowed on you according to how long you've been with that organization and what you've achieved in their eyes. But that's quite institutional. It's not always really spiritual, and it's got a purpose. It does have, I guess, some purpose, but we have to be so careful of any of those traps. So I've shared quite a lot here, and I wonder if there's any questions that have come in. So let's get May back and we'll look at those.
Yes, there is one question that was sent directly to me. What is the cause of jealousy? How can I understand that soul that has jealousy of me? How can I help to get rid of it?
Yeah, actually, that's a really hard one when someone else is jealous of me. I remember, you know, Dadi Janki, our former our spiritual head, she was saying that, in fact, jealousy comes from laziness. And she gave the example that if for example, the person next door had a beautiful garden and you were jealous of their beautiful garden, but you weren't making a beautiful garden, it's laziness. And then I said to her, well, what if you're not a good gardener? She said, but if you were doing what you are good at, you wouldn't be looking at others and being jealous. You would enjoy their speciality. So that's when it's myself. I have to see that I'm not being lazy, but I also think behind that laziness is often lack of self-esteem. Because, you know, I often find that people who are so-called lazy, if you give them company, they will do a lot, but they don't have the confidence to do it on their own. And so often self-esteem is even behind that laziness. But when it comes to that thing of others being jealous of me, it really can be such a big thing, because they'll often gossip and they'll sabotage things that you are trying to do. And yeah, it just is like an attack, a constant attack. So as much as I have humility, actually you'll find that people are less jealous, and also that when they are jealous, there's not much impact. So I'm thinking, you know, in particular of some people I know, they are so great, but they don't, again, it comes to that thing of not being role conscious. And many of you have heard Sister Shivani. I've met her many times when I was living in India. And I don't find people are jealous of her. I find they really appreciate what she brings. And so a lot of the teachers that are more experienced than her, have been meditating longer than her, they're very happy to invite her to their cities and, you know, for her to be the big one, because they can see how much she's able to serve other people. So they're not jealous. They just appreciate the goodness that she's bringing into the lives of others. But I think if she had any kind of ego, it would not work. People would not want to invite her, even if she could bring benefit to others. They would just feel, oh, it's so uncomfortable being around this person. I don't want to be with this person. So we need to have humility so that others aren't jealous. But even sometimes, I'm sure there's some people who are jealous of Sister Shivani. And I guess she has learned. I know from the beginning there was quite a lot, but she had to tolerate a lot in the beginning. But she went beyond all of this because she just had the consciousness, this is nothing to do with me. I'm just being used. I'm just an instrument. It's not my fault that I'm the one being used, but I've got to do what I'm meant to do. And I can't stop because I'm not doing it for me. I'm doing it for others. I'm being used like that flute. And she really, this is what keeps her so humble also. She really has the consciousness that there's some energy working through her. And even at the recording studio, she said to the people at the studio, you know, it's not there today. I don't feel that that's coming through. And they said, oh, we'll record anyway. You're here now. She said they've never used those ones. So she really needs to get out of the way and let whatever it is that's coming through. It's not that she's a medium or anything like that, but she allows, perhaps you could say, God or that higher force to come through her. So it's very beautiful to watch, how she's been moving along, at least up until now. You know, anyone can change anytime because, you know, our paths change, our destiny changes, but for many, many years, she's done such a great job.
Thanks, Moni. Actually, on this topic, it is one of the things that I've always remembered because there's also a senior teacher called Sister Jayanti. And
Yes.
she once said, when others have jealousy on you, one of the ways to finish the jealousy in others is to become egoless.
Yeah.
Always remember that.
Yeah.
And when we don't take, this is just my own channeling, when we don't take it, then people will stop stop being jealous. When we don't take any of the credit or anything.
Yeah. Don't take the credit, don't take the defamation, just be neutral, be the witness, the observer. And just to say, you know, Marianne Williamson, that famous poem, you know, we also should not hide so that others won't be jealous. That's fear. And she says in that poem, she says, there's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that others don't feel insecure around you. You can't serve the world by staying small. And when you let your light shine, you allow the light of others to shine. So sometimes because of jealousy, a fear of people being jealous, we block our own destiny. And that's fear, that's weakness, that's not showing our courage. So we have to move on and learn how to deal and manage with that jealousy.
Thanks, Moni. And thanks, Mira, who posted the question. There is another question. Can we give drishti? You might want to explain or ask what he means.
Yeah.
Can we give drishti to a country? I love my country, Malaysia, but also India, Bharat, and Germany. So maybe, Moni, you might want to see what...
Yeah. So sometimes a country needs our good wishes and, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. But even then, I learned a very good method from one of our senior brothers, Brother Nivea, and that is to, if you're sending good wishes to a person or a place, it's good to like emerge those people or that place like a projector and just project that image and let the light give power. Because if I start thinking about those people or that place, because of my attachment, I could taint it. But let me, you know, keep it in my conscious awareness and let the light of God or the source flow on that country or that place or that person or that situation. And people do practically say they get a lot of benefit, people, when we do our healing circles. But with regard to saying, I love my country, I love this country, I love that country, for me, I prefer to love everyone and everything, and every place, because, I have had the fortune to travel a lot, and I've found such wonderful people all over the world. So I've been to Pakistan, and I really had beautiful feelings for the people there, and I wouldn't feel they're any less than the people that I'm with here in Australia. So for me, I don't really like to have favorites. In fact, it was it was a bit tricky, because my sister-in-law asked me when we were sitting at the dining table if I love my parents more than others. And it was quite, I said, well, my aim is to love everyone equally, but I have responsibility towards them. And I do that with love. It is my responsibility, and I do it with love. But, I really want to love everyone, and I do love my mother and father were wonderful. There was nothing, not much not to love about them. But, there's it's hard not to have attachment or a favoritism, or, not to give. Sometimes you become unfair when you have a favorite, whether it's a child or whether it's a student in your class, because the one that's shining and wonderful, they often don't even need your attention. It's the one that's really giving you a hard time that probably needs your love. So love usually happens when we don't feel it, when we're extending ourselves to include them. So, yes, I like to be in the unlimited.
Thanks, Vijay Kumar, for the question. I might also just open it up to see if there's any other questions from anyone. You can also put up your hand if you like. Not at the moment, I think. It may come.
Yeah. Okay, well, we did touch on it briefly. So just in a few minutes, just to share this point on, seeing this whole drama as the detached observer, but seeing it as a drama. And like I said before, in one sense, nothing is wrong, because whatever anyone's doing, they're playing their part. It's really a great wisdom. I believe it's a great wisdom to be able to see others playing their role in this world drama. I mean, even Hitler, he had a role to play. I don't hate him. That was his role. I'm glad it wasn't my role. And I feel sorry, I mean, I wouldn't wish that role on anyone. But, it's really not helpful, because there are people playing roles that are causing a lot of sorrow to others. But I don't want to hate those people, because it's a role that they're playing, and people have done wrong action. So there's some karmic accounts playing out in all of that. So let me not get into judgment, because who am I to judge anyone or any situation, because I don't know the beginning, the middle, and end of every situation. And so we can use this word drama like a shield to protect us. Like whatever's happening, if something happens that's really like, oh no, I can say drama. It was meant to be. Or if I find out I've got some, chronic illness or terminal illness, whatever it is, it's a drama. So I need to use that shield of the drama to move through this drama, because it is a drama. I'm not just using that as a metaphor. I do believe this is a drama that I'm living in and living through and being challenged by. And so, of course, we have compassion and love for everyone and what they're moving through, but I can't take it all on. I can't. I don't have the capacity. And even if you think about God sitting up there beyond everything, imagine God knowing everyone's sorrow in this world, and how God can be detached and not be sorrowful and crying and disturbed, because God has this overall wisdom and can see the drama and knows ultimately there's benefit in the drama. That's a hard thing to see sometimes. We can often see it in retrospect, but wow, that's a hard one and a big one. So, but just to take on this whole idea of drama and use it in your life. Good. Well, I think we've come to our time where we probably need to finish. Is it already?
We still have a little bit of time.
Okay. So there's another question there.
Okay. There is a question. It's asking, how does one serve nature, the universe, and time? I don't know if I'm doing it correctly, but when I wake up after wishing, I would say good morning, maybe wishing God, wishing good morning, or to God, to the angels, I wish to the nature, the universe, and time. I have experienced the help of nature. Amazing. I guess he's just asking whether he's doing it correctly.
Yeah, well, this was just in we have a morning class every day, and today it was saying this, that, you know, nature, if we develop a relationship with nature, nature will serve us. And so, you know, often we want nature to serve us, but we don't love and care and have that, you know, deep respect and love for nature. So it's very selfish to just think of taking from nature. So it's very beautiful what you're saying, to really send those good wishes, to be grateful, and to acknowledge what nature brings to us. Yeah, great.
Lovely. Well, if there are no other questions, I was just thinking, you know, when you were saying that the Buddhists have this word to say skillful action on not skillful, unskillful action. And that's a really good word, actually, isn't it?
Yeah, because it does have
judgment.
Judgment, yeah.
Whether you are doing accurately or, you know, in an experienced way, skillful,
yeah,
like an artist, you know.
Yeah, it kind of acknowledges skill rather than judging the lack of skill, you know, because, you know, we just like appreciate skill, you know, but we don't think much about things that are not skillful. We just don't give it much attention, right? So it's got a lot less baggage in it.
When it's skillful, then something works very easily.
Yeah. It's very appreciated.
Okay, Moni, I suppose we can finish with a meditation from you.
Okay. Yeah, let's have a meditation. So let's go back, as in the beginning, to soul consciousness. to bring myself into this awareness. I remember who I am, really. That I am a being of energy, a being of light, a very subtle being. Body is, in a sense, gross. It can be weighed and measured, and it can be seen and touched. The soul is just energy, light, subtle. And easily experiences the dimension beyond the physical. A region where there is only light and silence. Light, silence. Whenever I choose, I can detach from the physical world, from my role and responsibilities. And just come into this region of silence, just with my mind. In this region of silence, my breathing slows down. I feel relaxed. My whole body becomes rested, cool, and light. I don't need to think about the body for a little while. I just let it rest comfortably, quietly, in peace. And I travel on the wings of thought. Even deeper into this region of silence and light. I feel immersed in total silence presence. Light and free. I'm aware of the presence of a very powerful energy, pure power, a subtle power filled with love and light. This is the being that never changes. A being that is eternally peaceful, and loving. This peace, this love has never and will never change. When I dwell in this region, I get lost in this connection. I can feel my own eternity. Peace and love. You're recharged, centered, as if I've regained consciousness. I take this awareness back onto the world drama stage. Let me practice staying in this awareness while playing my part, while watching the drama of life as the observer, the witness, not getting pulled into the scenes, into the drama. As I connect again with my body, I can feel that my body has benefited from my detachment. It needs me to just let it rest. So as I come back into this gathering, I feel refreshed, energized, connection strengthened. Oh, Shanti. I am being of peace.
Thank you, Sister Maureen. It is indeed very comforting to connect to a place that's unchanging, place and being that's unchanging.
And it doesn't take long, right? It's just a thought away. Always we can go there. If you need to go to the bathroom at work, just go there.
Yeah, these little drops of space in time when we can actually take time away.
Yeah.
Having a drink of water.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for a beautiful session. Beautiful, enlightening, powerful, stable, very nice session. And thanks to everyone who has joined us today, and also those who have asked your questions. I hope I have relayed it to your satisfaction. So the third part to this series, the Ancient Wisdom for Modern Times, the next one, actually I will just show that. Oh, just give me a moment. So the third and last part to this series will be on emotional independence. And it will be on the 10th of June, next month, same time like today, and on the same day. So emotional independence will be an interesting topic as well. So, and Sister Maureen will take us through that, and we will send out details for how to register for that closer to the time. So before we actually end the program, please, I invite everyone to turn on your videos and to put on your gallery view so that we can see everyone. Say goodbye, say hello and goodbye.
Always good to see you all. Yeah, Shanti.
Hi, Diane. Hi.
From many places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got about 50 over today who joined us, and yes, from many countries as well around.
Yeah, so nice. Thank you for joining, and look forward to seeing you next time. So lovely to see all these familiar faces and new faces. Both are beautiful.
So have a good night, everyone. Thanks, and see you all. I hope you enjoyed the session. Yeah, I did.